And now to that effort by the president of Nigeria to make credit available to most Nigerians. President Bola Tinubu has approved the take-off of the first phase of consumer credit scheme. Now, the scheme is supposed to serve as the lifeblood of modern economies, enabling citizens to enhance their quality of life by accessing goods and services upfront, paying responsibly over time. It's supposed to facilitate crucial purchases such as for homes, for vehicles, education, healthcare, and other essentials for to make life better. And I think the key word here is responsible repayment. That's what is supposed to drive it. But how will this work? Seeing that some days ago we did speak to the former managing director of the Bank of Industry, Mr. Waidola Agujo, and he told us how it seems the culture of repaying loans in Nigeria is poor. So how can this work? Well, let's speak to the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of CRC Credit Bureau. So if you're talking about being credit worthy, so we have bureaus like this that are supposed to ensure that only credit worthy individuals can access programs like that. He joins us virtually from Lagos, Dr. Tunde Popoola. Dr. Popoola, good afternoon and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me this afternoon.
Great. So help us to understand from your perspective how you think that this can work, this Consumer Credit Bureau.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's a new dawn in the history of Nigeria when it comes to empowering citizens to be able to have access to credit. We've longed for this for a while, and I'm happy that that era is here. We are Nigerians of all backgrounds who will be able to, who are interested in having access to credit for consumer loan. I mean, for consumer, product and services, to be able to have that. So I said we've been waiting for this for a long because the nation has prepared for this by having what we call credit infrastructure. I mean, for you to have effective consumer credit system, you must have some infrastructure put in place to be able to support that. There are major little areas of interest to lenders when it comes to consumer loans. They want to know that those who are taking the loan will have the capacity to repay the loan. They also want to know whether they will be willing to repay the loan. And to do all of these these two major areas of support is the credit bureau infrastructure. Since 2009, the government has licensed 3 private credit bureaus to operate in Nigeria, and they've been supporting the credit system since that time. So for you to have an effective consumer credit system, you need the bureaus as number 1. Number 2, you need to have very credible means of identification. And I think where we are today in Nigeria, we have the bank verification number, popularly known as BVN, and we also have the national identification number, also called NIN. With those 2, I think we are good to go when it comes to consumer credit. We are also good to go because Nigeria also has subscribed to the data protection regulation, which is also about the privacy of data of the individuals that will be used by various financial institutions in this scheme. Yeah, so those 3 things are very, very important. Credit infrastructure with the credit bureau, the unique identification, and then, of course, the regulations around data protection and data privacy. The last one, of course, is the institutions themselves that will be the vehicle through which the Nigerians will access this information. And I'm talking about the banks. And there are an array of them, and from what has been said from the release that we saw from the office of the president, you realize that commercial banks will be used, microfinance banks will be used, even cooperative societies will be used for this endeavor. So yeah, so it's a good day for Nigeria.
Yeah, but I mean, having those different identification is one thing, but actually having them coordinated to be able to create the digital personality that is needed for this scheme is actually another, because we've had these conversations over when Nigerians are saying, well, I have my data here, FRSC has my data, NIMC has my data, and then, of course, you have the BVN. But it seems it's not a coordinated system that would help to make a scheme like this work.
So it's a very straightforward one. Credit Bureau is the central repository for anything relating to credit information. And part of the information that is supplied to the Credit Bureau, the means of identification that you spoke about is part of it. So for instance, for every credit information that is supplied to the Credit Bureau, it always will have that BVN number attached to it. And so it's easy to connect the institutional housing, the BVN, which is the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System. And where we also need to connect with the Nigeria Identity Management Commission, NIMC, to be able to directly link to the the numbers of individuals. That also is easy to do. As we speak today, the credit bureaus use both of them, both numbers to be able to support the means, the identification for each of the loans or for each of the data subject that is housed in the credit bureau. So there's nothing, it's a very straightforward one, it's easy to navigate, and the readiness is there by the bureaus. So those information are there, there's no confusion about it, and it's already being gathered as we speak. Now, you realize that up to now, Nigerian banks are already using the credit bureau for consumer credit and for retail loans. What we are just going to see now is an upscale in large scale. This is going to go to all Nigerians. And I think that's the beauty of what is coming up.
So help us to understand how it really works, getting a credit rating as an individual. Do I come to you to say, oh, I want you to rate me, or how does it work? And how am I sure that it be an objective rating?
Okay, so the credit bureau has, based on the data that is submitted, the credit bureau aggregates this data for
who submits the data, Dr. Popoola? Who submits the data?
Is the financial institutions.
Okay.
The financial institutions submit the data of all borrowers in their possession, and it's mandated by law. So when I talk about regulation, we have the National Credit Reporting Act that mandates all lenders to submit and furnish the licensed credit bureau with the data of all borrowers in their possession. And the information they submit have everything that's required to be able to identify an individual and to be able to identify the credit that individual has been enjoying over time. So from those information that's been submitted, then the bureau have what we call credit information report, what we call credit reports, and they also have credit scores for every individual that has ever enjoyed credit. So that is what is going to be relied upon for any lender now to grant credits to a new applicant or a new prospective borrower who may approach them. And once those are granted, like we are going to see the changes that we are going to see now, those data also will now be furnished to the bureau to update the position of every borrower in the system. And that's the way it's going to work.
So from your perspective now, Nigeria is ready for this scheme, this consumer credit scheme?
Nigeria is very ready for this scheme. We've been on this for some time, and I'm so glad that we have reached this stage, and I really want to thank the federal government for this. This is what we need to really unleash and for Nigerians to realize the potential that we have as an economy. You know, when you have access to credit as an individual, then you can enjoy your life, you can buy basic things. And of course, production will also then follow, because there will be increase in demand for goods and services. There will be increase in demand for what people use on a daily basis. And that will move around. It's a cycle. Once demand increases, then it will be backed up by increase in production. Increase in production means there will be increase in the things that businesses have to produce. So that will lead to increased employment opportunity for people, and it will increase to disposable income for people, and it goes on like that. So people will no longer need to depend on the savings they have made before they can do transactions. They can always then enjoy these transactions or these services and then pay for it later or pay it for it over a period of time, which is what we see grant leads to prosperity in a lot of nations that we see around the world.
All right.
And so if we are enjoying that, I think that is a good day for Nigeria.
Okay, Dr. Popoola, what do you think about the perspective that it seems some Nigerians do not have the habit of repaying loans?
So interesting. This is why the Bureau is there. The Bureau is to shape the behavior and to shape the character of people. The Credit Bureau is not just an credit infrastructure, it's also a social institution that forces people to behave. Because what it does is that the data is there. Anybody who wants to lend, like the consumer credit we are talking about, they will go to the Bureau, look for the information of that individual. If that individual has enjoyed credit in the past and he didn't repay, then of course he won't have access to a new credit. And so that person is taking up access to credit. And I don't think anybody will want to be in that condition. That's the moral situation part of it. It forces people to comply with terms and conditions of credit so that they can subsequently continue to enjoy credit in the future. If they don't do that, then that's the last that they are going to enjoy, and nobody in the economy will give them access to credit moving forward. But those who are doing very well, and that's the beauty of it. So a bureau is not a punitive infrastructure. It also encourages access to, the lenders to be able to give credit to those who really obey and honor their obligations, who pay their debts on time, and who have been true to their covenant when it comes to loans. Such people will continue to enjoy credit, and not just enjoying credit, they also enjoy it at relatively more favorable terms, including the pricing, the interest rate they are going to really they're going to get the loan. So that's what is going to happen. That's what we are going to see. If you look at the banking industry today, you realize that the level of non-performing loans for consumers has really gone down from what it used to be. As a matter of fact, today now it's just around 5%. Why is that so? Because nowadays there's nobody that can take credit or take any loan in any bank and go away without repaying it. If you don't repay it, then you can't get loan from any other place, because that data is there, and that's what we're going to see. So Nigerians are going to get to a stage where everybody will jealously be guiding their credit report, they will jealously be guiding their credit score, because with that they can do so many things, including preventing fraud and all of that. So that's the beauty of the scheme that is coming on board, and that's the beauty of having the Credit Bureau already in place ahead of this new initiative.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Tunde Popoola, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of CRC Credit Bureau. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.